It's been a cold winter up here in Canada. Why, I've had to get some extra trash fires roasting just to keep the frost out. Luckily, the new winter anime season has delivered plenty of extra trashy fuel right when I needed it to keep those fires going during this trying time, and oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't even see you shivering over there on the other side of the screen. Here, allow me to share some of my warmth with you. Provided you do not ask how my extremely intuitive and scientific trash rating system works, I will kick you out into the blizzard. Do not test me. This is the hottest trash of winter 2022, sponsored by Gfuel, the ideal beverage pairing for every quarterly crud cookout. With their wide array of delicious flavors, from Doom Sour Demonade to the enigmatic Clickbait to their new Naruto Sage Mode formula, Gfuel helps that roasted rubbish go down smooth every time. And that's not all. With their proprietary blend of caffeine, focus amino, vitamins, and antioxidants, Gfuel also gives you the energy you need to withstand 12 to 24 episodes worth of psychic damage. Though, if all you want is the taste, they also offer caffeine-free hydration formulas. With or without the energy part, Gfuel formulas are available in both convenient canned form and space-efficient powder tubs. And best of all, if you use the promo code BASEMENT when you check out at gfuel.com, you can get 30% off an order of any size. So you could buy enough tubs to build an entire house, and it would be a slightly less horrible financial decision than it normally would. Hit the link in the doobly-doo to get yours today. I think it would be best to kick this trash-tasting session off with some familiar comfort garbage. Arifureta, if you didn't know, is back this season in full force with slightly upgraded visuals. Now it looks like the contents of your high school DeviantArt folder fighting baddies that fell out of a PS3 game, and very downgraded horny camera work to match. Which is both disappointing because the Queen's Blade level shamelessness of the original was incredibly hilarious, but also a relief because it means there's way less my editors will need to cut around to avoid getting this whole video demonetized. Luckily, the story side of the production hasn't lost even an ounce of its shameless wish fulfillment juice. Hajime's got himself a magic submarine with magic torpedoes now, plus these cool crossbit things straight out of Gundam that hang in the air around him, blocking shots and adding extra pew-pews to all the usual blam, blam, ding, 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 kapow, of course, all his waifus are still in tow too, and also, when they finally meet Miu's birth mom, she decides she also wants a piece of the man her daughter is calling Papa. Plus, that one hot teacher's still thinking about their mouth-to-mouth resuscitation session, and the camera's spent an awful lot of time focusing on Sword Girl. Even at 4 members, this harem clearly still has the potential for exponential growth. Also, the in medias res teaser that kicks off the whole season shows Hajime fighting a literal angel, so that's probably going to be pretty fun when it happens. And a lot of the dungeon crawling, monster fighting adventures our heroes have been on so far have already been a lot more fun than they were in Season 1. On the whole, Season 2's action has been considerably more competent than it was before, which more or less offsets the relative lack of hilarious horn-dogging this season. Also, Seaman's back. Everyone loves a hot load of Seaman. Really, there's not much else I can say about Season 2 that wouldn't just be regurgitating my last roast, though. Arifureta Season 2 still earns itself 4 high school dumpsters full of all the notebook doodles that you would totally murder most people if they ever laid eyes on them, on fire, naturally, because you set the fire, but then one of your drawings slipped out into the breeze and your crush picked it up and it was an extra spicy drawing, so now you also are on fire because you set the fire. But this time, the drawing was slightly less spicy than the one from last season, but still spicy enough that you set yourself on fire, though. Yeah. Speaking of spice, it wouldn't be a real barbecue without a harem or two to throw on the grill, and there's another one of those this season that makes Arifureta look downright restrained by comparison. I mean, I assume that's what's happening somewhere under all those black bars. World's End Harem, as the title suggests, is an extremely explicit escapist fantasy for every dude who's ever heard the words, "Not if you were the last man on Earth." Reito Mizuhara is a genius medical student living in a far future world where most diseases have been cured already, except for, inconveniently, the one that he has, cellular sclerosis. Lucky for him though, cryosleep has also been invented in this future, so he can just take a long nap while he waits for the treatment to be perfected in half a decade or so, which in current year honestly sounds like an even more appealing escapist fantasy than the one this is setting up. But anyway, right before his long nap, Reito's childhood friend promises him that she'll wait for him, which sounds nice, but actually puts him in a very awkward position when, right after the nap, he finds out that she's gone completely MIA, and also that the entire male population of Earth, except for 5 dudes with his disease, have all been killed by the mysterious man-killer virus. And it is now his solemn duty to our entire species to bang every woman on the planet, starting with the models and pop stars. He is, of course, horrified by this terrible burden and refuses it immediately. No, seriously, that's what he does. That promise ring is fucking welded to this boy's finger, and he is gonna deliver his virginity to its intended recipient, even if it means reducing the genetic variability of the entire global human population by 20%. You know how frustrating it is when a flaccid Keitaro-type harem protagonist perpetually refuses to do the one thing everyone watching wants to see him do, and also it's literally the key to saving the world somehow? Well, if that's your fetish, then this is the anime for you. I mean that very literally. Reito's ball handler, who also happens to look exactly like his childhood friend but with white eyelashes, makes him a deal that he's got 30 days to find said childhood friend, but she's gonna put a new sloot in his bed every single night to tempt him, just in case he changes his mind, and most of the plot is just that happening over and over. I mean, there's a secret UN sex murder conspiracy thing that's going on behind the scenes, and of course they've also got to figure out what really happened with that virus, but from reading the manga entirely for research purposes, I can tell you that the vast majority of this story's runtime is just porn with extra steps, or I guess it would be one fewer step. I can also tell you that the art in the manga is exponentially better than anything that you will see in this anime, and also that Missingno doesn't get in the way of every single thing that you would want to see. Do with that information what you will. I give this anime 3 waste paper baskets full of crumpled tissues that are not on fire, and you know exactly why. Next up on this roast menu, the strongest sage with the weakest crest is the sorta isekai-adjacent fantasy anime that you get when a writer designs a magic system, and that's it. That's all the world-building work done, also all the character development, and especially all of the plot, which is about secret demons who have tricked all of mankind into using that magic system wrong, since Protag-kun reincarnated 1,000 years ago, to make us easier to conquer, fooling our entire species with such devious, uncrackable aliases as Devilis. Because of this extremely clever and subtle subterfuge, everyone in the world now thinks that the strongest sage's crest, the hand-to-hand battle mage crest, is the weakest. But it is actually the strongest crest. That's why the title is what it is. You see, there's 2 types of magic in this world. Incantation magic, which is slow and bad, and wordless magic, which is fast and good, obviously. But the demons infiltrated the upper ranks of adventurer training schools and convinced everyone that repeating a lengthy incantation in the middle of combat is infinitely more practical than pointing at a thing and then magic makes it go boom. And all of the people went along with that because if they didn't, then there would be no one to underestimate the protagonist on account of something he can't change, and then be amazed when he defies their bigoted expectations, and then they immediately start worshipping him as a god, and begging him to have babies with them, and or all of their female relatives. Not that being underestimated ever actually gets in his way. Like, dude has an exclusive audience with the king at the start of episode 2, wherein he is offered as a prize for his unrivaled heroics, considered equal in value to an entire fiefdom, a magic sword that he made a couple days ago for fun. And on top of that, when he just straight up guesses that demons will be launching a full-scale invasion of the city in 3 months based on one piece of evidence, the king is just like, yes, that makes complete sense. I will trust you, small child I just met, with the defense of my entire nation, based on a thing that you made up and I have no way of verifying. Please take some of our national treasures to construct an anti-demon barrier. And the national treasure that he chooses just happens to be another magic sword that he also made thousands of years ago before he killed most of the demons and then reincarnated entirely so that he could roll a new character build with that crest from the title. So like the whole weak crest prejudice thing that's so important to the plot that it's the title is less of a significant societal obstacle that our hero has to overcome and more a basic plot device that allows for him to be constantly underestimated and then surprise guys with how cool he is in every scene of every episode forever. That is all this entire anime is about. Aside from the magic system, of course, which is, to add insult to injury, also extremely bad and boring. You see, what makes a magic system interesting, and I just read the first Mistborn book, so I'm totally an expert on this now, isn't the cool things that it allows your heroes to do, but rather the limitations that it imposes upon them, which they must cleverly overcome to maximize that coolness. You can math out all the JRPG stats and magic particle physics you want, but at the end of the day, a magic system in a story needs to be a storytelling tool first, and wiki filler a far, far distant second. It must serve, first and foremost, to create interesting problems for your hero while giving him or her enough wiggle room and tools to come up with novel and interesting solutions to those problems. I cast Big Fireball. Oh yeah? Well, I cast Magic Reflecting Orb is not that. I'm sorry, but anally categorizing and calculating aspects of a soft, hand-wavy, do-anything system does not add anything to its narrative utility, actually. This show is pretty much just the misfit at Demon King Academy without any of the personality or aesthetic sensibility or sense of humor or self-awareness or originality. I give it 2 back alley bins full of soggy, slightly stale crackers and white bread, plus a few stat tables torn out of a Final Fantasy strategy guide. Out of all the anime I have to roast today, the next one probably makes me the saddest. Orient is the latest, not-so-greatest fantasy battle manga from Shinobu Otaka, the creator of one of my personal favorite anime, the Arabian Nights-inspired Maji. It follows some little guys who go around fighting much, much bigger guys to save their fantasy Japan land from an evil alien demon army that has taken over and forced everyone to mine the rocks that they eat, and also everyone's been re-educated so that they think magic samurai, aka Bushi, are big doo-doo heads, because only the Bushi are able to beat the aliens, and if everybody bullies them, then they won't have time to fight the Oni, I guess. Our fiery red-headed hero Musashi doesn't believe everything he hears in mining slave school, though, so he's decided to turn his pickaxe into a katana and fight back against the Oni alongside his childhood friend Kojiro, whose father was a Bushi warrior. But of course, Kojiro got bullied real bad for being a Bushi, so he's gonna need, gosh, at least 10 minutes of soul-searching before he's really ready to join that revolution. Orient doesn't have a particularly gripping premise, nor are any of its characters all that interesting. Plus, right away it starts leaning on recycled plot beats from Maji that make it seem really lazy, but the prospect of Shadow of the Colossus scale action scenes does at least have the potential to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the first thing that you'll probably notice about its anime adaptation is that it's not, actually animated most of the time. Also, when it is, it kind of looks like complete ass. Okay, the occasional shot does rise to the same approximate quality level as your average 5-minute trigger shitpost, but that's about the best you can hope for here. Basically, they took a manga that had exactly one thing going for it, and then removed that thing, which is I would argue not an ideal approach to adaptation. I'm giving Orient one standard issue steel trash can full of bent up fake katanas from your local night market. I think the best way to approach roasting the next lump of garbage, Fantasia Songo Realm of Legends, is to simply describe a bit of its plot to you while showing you how much effort went into animating that. It is Romance of the Three Kingdoms time in China, and because there's this purple gas what turns people into monsters, a goddess or something with big titties appears before a warrior dude in the middle of generic anime forest clearing number 427 and says, "Hey yo, chosen one, you have been chosen, go fight them monsters." Then he walks a bit of a ways down easy-to-paint dirt road number 69, where he meets an honorable lady warrior musician who's like, "Yeah, I'm down to fight some monsters," followed by a half-monster girl who fuels her monster powers by sucking down monster farts. And she's all like, "Sure, I'll fight with you, but that doesn't make us friends. I don't have friends, 'cause I'm a monster. An angsty monster." Then they meet a slightly sassier warrior dude who's also a bit cowardly and doesn't want to fight no monsters on account of all his friends died fighting monsters. So his tea bucket comes to life and starts insulting him, and I guess that's our mascot now. And then Big Titty Goddess or whatever is like, "Hey, fuck your PTSD, fight monsters or die." So now we have the obligatory whiny member of our JRPG party, and the team is complete. And together they set out for a random forest clearing with a monster in it, and they fight the monster, and then the half-monster girl eats all his farts and grows horns and makes a fart tornado to beat him. Roll credits. The next episode sees the crew hunting down an even more dangerous, crafty type of monster in generic anime Chinatown number 6, while they learn to be friends and trust each other and junk, and also we learn that there is a big titty evil fortune teller lady who is using the evil farts to make even more monsters behind the scenes. And I don't think I really have to tell you anything that happens after that, because this show is literally nothing but tropes. Fantasia Songo is what would happen if Jim Davis took all the character writing skill and attention to background detail that he pours into every Garfield strip and made a shonen battle anime instead. I give it one standard issue steel trash can full of bent up fake Chinese broadswords from your local night market. While we're still on the subject of bullshit battle anime, Rusted Armor tells a tale of an alternate history Japan that's been secretly conquered by Spanish conquistadors, and the brave Saika-Iki mercenaries who must stand together against them with the power of armors. Legendary magic weapons that do, magic weapon stuff, like they shoot good, and there's this one guy with a minigun for an arm, like Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. Oda Nobunaga's also here, and his job seems to be explaining how the power system works, but he hadn't done a sufficient enough job of that by the time I couldn't bring myself to watch another second of this crap, so that's all I can tell you. If I can say one thing in this show's favor, the simple woodblock-style background art does blend decently well with the heavily shaded 3D character models that inhabit those backgrounds. As someone who has spent way too much time staring at bad CGI anime, trust me, I have seen far more retina-searing sights than this. Of course, that art style also makes the show look like a cheapo Flash cartoon every time it needs to use 2D animation, or more often completely static 2D artwork, and the character models themselves are excruciatingly awkward whenever they start moving, or the camera gets too close to them, or even a medium distance from them. But still, credit where it's due, X-Arm could have learned a thing or two from this show. Not a high bar to clear, but still a bar, technically. Sure, maybe the anime accidentally describes its own visuals with savage accuracy with this one line. But, okay, let me level with you. This is pure garbage. In terms of action choreography, weapon-based color-coded character designs, story structure, and even fighting the same copy-pasted armored goons over and over every episode, it is somehow a step down from Rooster Teeth's Rawubiya in every respect. I just feel real bad saying that, because they put these little variety show style travelogue segments at the end of every episode where the two lead actors go to locations from the show and do fun things there, and they are very likable, funny dudes. I desperately do not want to hurt their feelings by telling them they made a bad anime. But they did. They really fucking did. The CGI in Rusted Armors is so half-assed they have to cut around the characters jumping into water because they don't even have a splash effect. The dialogue alternates between unfunny jokes and long stretches of characters explaining either how they feel or how a world-building detail works. And there are so many characters introduced up front that it comes off more like a gotcha anime trying to sell you all the husbands. I give Rusted Armors 3 Walmart dumpsters full of unsold Power Rangers Ninja Storm toys and those DVDs that try to trick old people into thinking they're whatever DreamWorks or Pixar thing their grandkids actually wanted for Christmas, blazing hot and belching out toxic black smoke. Now, last but not least, well, actually, the last show on this list kind of is the least. Probably could have gone out on a much stronger note, but I just couldn't resist the urge to make this video an isekai sandwich. The first episode of She Proclaimed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man has gotta be one of the most tremendous betrayals of basic storytelling principles I've seen in my entire life. Fully half of it is spent exposition dumping about this cool future VR MMO where the players can do whatever they want and even run their own countries. So some of the best Magic users got together and made a Magic country, and there's these 9 badass top-level players called sages who protect it. Then one of the sages, Old Man Danbolf, goes off to fight an army of terrible CGI goblins and terrible CGI demons with his army of terrible CGI knights over a very, very out-of-place J-pop insert song. Then he comes back and the king shakes his hand for a job well done, and over this picture of them shaking hands, the narrator cuts in to inform us that right after this happened, all of the sages disappeared and the entire world was thrown into chaos. This episode had 3 minutes to spare for a bad CGI music video and 0 for depicting the inciting incident of the anime's entire plot. Also, it apparently had 4 minutes to spare right after that for a sloppily animated, completely dialogue-free montage of a little girl waking up in a field in Old Man Gandalf's clothes, sniffing a flower, and then walking into town. No, really, that is all the plot points that happen in that montage. It goes on for 4 minutes. I don't understand how it's that bad. The next episode, we find out this little girl actually is Old Man Gandalf, who passed out in the middle of using a cosmetic item to character design his ideal woman. Don't think about that. Then he woke up what turns out to be 30 years after everyone else in the MMO got themselves Log Horizoned, which I guess the narrator just forgot to mention. And now she's got to pretend that she's Danbolf's pupil instead of Danbolf, and her name is now Mira because the other kingdoms would laugh at their kingdom if their greatest warrior looked like a little girl, even though she has all the same one-man army powers that made her a badass in the first place, and also their king perpetually looks like a 12-year-old boy. On top of all of its fundamental storytelling failures and embarrassing production values, Pupil of the Wise Man also bears the dishonorable distinction of creating quite possibly the least funny, horny reaction character in the entire history of anime, this green-haired mage girl with the glasses. At one point, Mira splashes holy water on a mirror, and for some reason, this makes the glasses mage girl start uncontrollably humping her staff, so the elf girl in their party has to put her in a headlock. Another time, Mira says she has a secret, and the concept of her having a secret makes the mage girl so uncontrollably horny again that the elf girl has to put her in a headlock again. It's not just the repetitive nature of the gag that gets me, or even the transparently lazy attempt to offset the inherent creepiness of a Mineta-style character by putting the horny words in a female mouth. It's the fact that just trying to figure out what this girl is even horny about makes even me, with my thoroughly hentai-poisoned brain, feel like I'm having a stroke. Another recurring joke of this variety is that Mira has a smaller bladder than she's used to now, so she sometimes has to run off to take a specifically steamy piss in the nearest bathroom. The second time this happens, it is literally in the middle of a dungeon, an ancient, cursed necropolis with indoor plumbing. What'll they think of next? An isekai anime that's actually good? I give She Proclaimed Herself Pupil of the Wise Man 4 dumpsters full of manga and anime with very large disclaimers on the back declaring that all of the characters in them are totally over 18, plus a mountain of old MMO free trial CDs, all burning bright like it's the 4th of July. And that's all the trash we've got to roast today. Though, if you're not completely satisfied with tonight's menu, you could also check out the recently released FreakAngels, which I recently covered in my roundup of all the Crunchyroll originals. I won't rehash what I said in that video, but I will play this clip again.
What is it about the apocalypse apparently that makes me so damn thirsty? Christ, what if I'm apocal pregnant? How fucking cliche.
And since it doesn't have a trash rating already, I give it 5 Whitechapel pub skips full of week old fish and chips and poser punk albums soaked in cheap scotch and burning hot. Check out the Crunchyroll Originals rundown if you want to hear more. I'm Geoff Thew, trash sommelier extraordinaire, signing out from the bottom of another dumpster.